It is the Charles Van Morgan Show, Unbridled News Live. Good morning and welcome, and come on in. Thank y'all for joining me. Got a great show for you today. We are going to talk about social movement tactics and about the success of the unruly. We're not talking about doing anything illegal, but being loud and boisterous and pushing the truth across the finish line is very adequate and acceptable. Being quiet and shy will not get you anywhere and will not get us anywhere. And we're going to talk about how crooked the government is, how crooked people in government power are, and why you need to do this. So my demise is your demise. It's a social issue. So here we go. I got the one hand. Okay. That's activity. Thank you for joining. Come on in. So try to ignore some of these comments, but make the comment. That gives us activity, so that's good. Charles Van Morgan Show. We got a great show for you today. Welcome, broadcasting live in the morning from Knoxville, Tennessee. We're going to talk about social movements. We're going to talk about world-changing movements and tactics of social movements. So come on in. Thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about crooked people in government power and what the hell we can do about it. We can do a hell of a lot about it. We can change the world if we fight, and it has been done all across societies at all different times, and it is time to change the way the systems in government, the people in government power are operating things. So come on in. Charles Van Morgan Show in the morning. Got some real interesting facts for you. The government hates facts. They prefer to live on lies and propaganda and change the truth. And we're going to give you a little truth. And they hate the truth teller. That's the reason why they try to shut me up. But I'm not shutting up. And that's one of the ways to be a successful social movement is to keep on going, keep on keeping on. Hold on to the truth. So thank you all for joining me. Let's talk about the Dirty Board of Law Examiners. We're going to talk about two cases. And continuing from yesterday, going to talk about two cases. The two cases that the Tennessee Board of Law Examiners broke the law and violated case law whenever they ruled against me. You know, the Tennessee Board of Law Examiners is a law organization, people in government power that decide whether or not you get law license. And they're lawyers, so you would think that if you go to a hearing before the Tennessee Board of Law Examiners, that they would use the law, the legal principles, in deciding whether or not somebody gets a law license or whether or not they don't get a law license. You'd think they'd go by legal procedures, legal case law. Well, see, I have a doctor of jurisprudence, passed the bar exam twice, so I know the legal procedures, I know the legal facts, I know the legal case law, and I know that they violated it. You see, they just do whatever they want to do, and they throw all the law that people think that lawyers can tell you to help you get through a case, they just throw it in the river. That doesn't matter. It's not about the law. It's about blackballing. It's about who's who. The law to them means nothing. And this is a Board of Law Examiners. I mean, I could understand it was a board of haircutters, or I could understand if it was some other licensing organization of some other profession. But when you're talking about the Board of Law Examiners, and they violate obvious state and federal case law, like State versus Hornsby in 1992, the physical facts rule, and when they violate federal laws, Oleg versus Department of Veterans Affairs, when you're talking about candor, when they violate principles like that, and there are other ones, in deciding that you do not get your law license, then they're lying, they're blackballing, and it's not about the rule of law. We are a nation of laws. We're a nation of laws that people in government power violate. They violate them, and it's not a personal problem. It's a social problem because they only license attorneys, not ones that will go by the law, because they don't go by the law. They only license attorneys and let them speak in a courtroom that will represent them. Your attorney is a member of the bar, is an officer of the court. So your attorney represents you and represents them. They are double agents. And if they don't do what the court officers want them to do, which is against case law sometimes, which is against the law, then they pull their law license. They're under complete, total control of the Board of Law Examiners, the Board of Professional Responsibility, and the Board of Law Examiners, Board of Professional Responsibility in the state of Tennessee, and they control the federal courts. They're not supposed to, but they do. The federal courts let them get by with that. Then if they don't obey them and disobey the law, the rule of law, then they'll pull their law license, pull their livelihood. And if you don't agree to go 100% on the people in government power's favor that are in power right now, then they won't give you your law license. And that's why they didn't give me my law license. And I'm going to explain just 2 case law events where they said I did stuff wrong, and according to case law, according to their own laws that they make, that they ignore when it doesn't suit them, they just forgot about. The first one is the physical facts rule. The physical facts rule, State versus Hornsby from 1992. Now, evidently, and we brought this up to the court, evidently the Board of Law Examiners under Jeffrey Ward doesn't care about the rule of law. He doesn't care about that. That's just meaningless to him. They just throw it in the river. So rules and case law don't matter to them. Now, case law is like if you have a set of circumstances that's adjudicated, facts that are adjudicated, and you have those facts adjudicated, and you have a similar case in your situation that's like those facts, like State versus Hornsby, a physical facts rule, then you go to court and you argue that those facts similar, that's already been adjudicated in State versus Hornsby, still case law from 1992, applies to your facts, and the court is obligated, if it fits your facts, to rule on case law, or they're overturning case law. Or, like Tennessee Supreme Court does, they just ignore the case law and blackball you and lie about stuff. And it's so alarming when you can explain it to people in a simplified manner what exactly they're doing. They are breaking the rule of law. The Board of Law Examiners breaking the rule of law. They don't care about the law. They wanted to blackball me from practicing law because I would defend people's constitutional rights. And I'm just arguing the law. I'm going to tell you what they did by a story. So I don't have my law license because the Tennessee Board of Law Examiners said that numerous court rulings have said that I'm not credible, that I'm not honest. But yet the legal standard of proving that has not been met. It's not been met at all because of the physical facts rule. Because of the law. The law says you can't say someone is not credible simply because of the physical facts rule. If they see a car wreck differently than the physical facts, then they can disregard your testimony, but they cannot say that you're not credible as overall and discredit your testimony over something that happened in a car wreck. State versus Hornsby, 1992. It is because in a car wreck, cars are moving, parts are moving, and you cannot say that someone is not a credible person because they seen a car wreck different than the physical facts. That doesn't make them incredible because of perception, reaction, the realization that that's the way they saw it. And it doesn't mean that they're lying. It just means that that's the way they saw it in a environment where things are quickly changing. Their perception was wrong at that time in that wreck. You can't brand them as not credible and not use their testimony. You can exclude that specific testimony about the specific wreck. For example, simply put, If someone says before a wreck a car was going at a slow rate of speed, and the physical facts prove that the car was going at a high rate of speed, then the court can't say, well, this person is not a credible person. They're a liar, because of the physical factual, and they can tell how fast the car is going. A witness could view a car and think that, hey, it's going fast, it's going slow, when in reality it's going real fast. That could be there could be a perception distortion. Now, state troopers and other people are trained to be able to estimate the speed of vehicles because of training through years and years. Some of them are better than others. Some of them sit in the office and don't do anything. Some of them get out and actually do the job. But if someone estimates that a car before a wreck is a witness, and they say the car that was in the wreck was going at a slow rate of speed, and the physical facts show that they were going at a high rate of speed, and they can show the physical facts because they can tell the speed based on a formula by the skid marks. So they can literally come to pretty close about how fast the car was going by using math, by the weight of the car and the distance of the skid marks. Now, I went through a class that did that. So you can tell by physical facts. The physical facts are the skid marks. Let's make sure I don't fall down here. By the skid marks. So if a witness says that the car was going slow, but the physical facts say the skid marks were this long, and by science, the number of tires and the skid marks, the evidence shows that the car was in fact going at a high rate of speed, then you can't discredit. You can discredit that witness testimony, but you can't say that that witness is never qualified to testify. In any court case, again, they're not a credible person because of the physical facts rule. It simply applies. It simply means that you discredit their testimony in that specific circumstance because of moving car parts. It happens all the time on a football field where in real time a referee calls a play wrong. And then they throw the red flag and they review it, and the referee on the field got it wrong. And they, because similar to it's the physical factual, you can't say, well, we don't allow that referee to referee anymore because he got the call wrong. It simply means because of the speed of the game, because of moving parts, but he couldn't see everything, so he called it wrong. That doesn't mean that he's not a credible person that you adjudicate for their entire life that, hey, they're not credible. Involving car wreck specifically in the case law. Now, the Tennessee court system, in order to blackball me, has nothing to do with the law. The court system has nothing to do with the law. Tennessee court system has nothing to do with the law. People say it's the court system. That doesn't. No, it don't. No, it don't. It has nothing to do with the law. It has to do with what they want to decide and how they get there to present it to the public for propaganda. Don't have anything to do with the law. If it did, in my case, that pursuit I was in was involving a car wreck, moving parts, a high rate of speed. I mean, you're talking about a high and varying speed pursuit in the dark at night. And a Tennessee court judge ignored the law, ignored the physical facts rule, and adjudicated based on that wreck, that one incident, which I obeyed the rule of law. There's no way I could see that. You can see it on a camera later, but that's not a fair adjudicative procedure. Based on that, adjudicated that I'm completely not credible for the rest of my life. Sounds like to me blackballing. That's not case law, physical facts rule. They don't care about the law. The law says they can't say that I'm not credible for the rest of my life based on 2 seconds. And that's what they did. Why'd they do that for? Dirty courts, dirty Tennessee courts. Physical facts rule, look it up. I'm just talking about the law, that they're the law, they're the judges, supposed to adjudicate by the law, not personal opinions and vendettas and out to get certain people. But that's what they do. That's what they did. They violated the physical facts rule because I made a call in the middle of the night, unable to see something that was there, but I wasn't able to see it from my vantage point. Based on that, they said that I'm not credible for the rest of my life. Sounds like a ploy to blackball somebody for the rest of their life, doesn't it? And then they use that same case, multiple cases all throughout the Tennessee court system. And that's what the Board of Law is saying. Multiple courts have decided that you're not credible in violation of the physical factual. Because as I explained in my testimony to the board, I explained to them, they weren't listening to me. It's not a due process hearing where you have a right to speak and they're supposed to consider and be unbiased. It's a court where they back up the hierarchy that has already lied on you, and they're going to stick to their lies. And that's what our Tennessee courtroom is. And that's what they'll do to you. And they don't like me saying that. They don't like me pointing out the law, but I have a JD just like they do. The difference between me and Tennessee court judges is I'm honest and they're not. They violate the physical factual and I don't. They blackball people and I wouldn't. And that comes from the governor. That comes from the governor. Comes straight down from the governor. They do whatever the governor wants them to do. So that's the first issue about social movement and tactics. The tactic they use is to violate the rule of law. We're a nation of laws. We're a nation of blackballing in the judicial system by power. We're not a nation of laws. We need to be a nation of laws. It doesn't matter who you are. They should adjudicate truth and facts in law, but the judicial system doesn't do that in Tennessee. They don't like me saying that. So that's the first tactic, getting out the truth. That's just one simple issue. So because of 2 seconds, they blackball me, violating the physical facts rule. And we told them the physical facts rule. They don't care about that. They're not gonna go against their hierarchy, even if the hierarchy's wrong. It's like a runaway train. They're gonna demolish whatever's in their way. They're not even gonna try to slow down. They don't care. They don't think they have to. And that's what a social movement does, point out the truth. No, you're wrong. And the further you go and you're wrong, the worse we're gonna make you look. And that's what I'm doing. So the physical facts rule. The other thing is the federal rule of candor that they violated. They said I wasn't candid. Well, let's see if that matches up with the rule of law that a judicial administrative court said that don't use the law. Now, they don't use the law. To hell with the law to them. They're going to go along with the program and rig it however they want to rig it. They're riggers. They're not legal people. They're riggers. They learn how to rig things against you and for them and violate the rule of law. There's so many people we got in here. Charles Van Morgan in the morning, we're going to talk about the legal concept of candor, how they violated that. Oleg versus Department of Veterans Affairs, 2016. You know, I went to their law schools. I know the law. They know the law. They don't care about the law. They blackball you. And I'm explaining to you how the Tennessee Board of Law Examiners, under lying Lisa Perlin and under lying criminals that were convicted, so I'm not going to be guilty of defamation, violated the rule of law and has affected you. And you don't get honest lawyers in the courtroom. You get lawyers that do what they say, or they'll show you the business. They'll do what they did to me, to all of them, which is what their rulings are. They spread a message that, hey, if you go against us, we'll defame you. We'll put it out to the world. You do this. This is our legal ruling. This is our blackballing ruling. You stand on the truth and you won't get your law license because we're in power. That's what their court rulings are for, to show this is the way it is. We don't give a damn about the law. We're in power. So we'll talk about the rule of candor, Oleg versus Department of Veterans Affairs, 2016. They violated that. They just step all over the rule of law. And they're a law board. Wow, how amazing. They don't like me saying this. But see, I have a little legal education. They have a little education in dirty blackballing and criminal activity. That's what the Lisa Perlin's criminal syndicate board is. So you won't get an honest lawyer in Tennessee for the most part. Let's see how many people we got on here. Thank y'all for joining me. We're going to continue to go into this dialogue about how corrupt the court system is from a legal expert position. Standard. I am a person who's passed the bar twice. I know the law probably better than they do. And I also got a little character that they don't have, because I wouldn't do people the way they do. So let's see how many people we got in here. Hang on and continue to listen. We got a lot to cover. Great show today talking about the law. They can deny me my law license, but they can't take my doctor of jurisprudence and my bar passage and my knowledge of the law away. And they can't take it away what I'll point out what they're doing wrong. They're a bunch of dirtbag criminals in government power. Thank y'all for joining. We'll talk about lack of candor and whether or not I have it. I sound pretty damn candid, don't I? Let's see what we got in here. Yeah, we got a few people. So he ran into them and drove off. That's not true. Look at the lies in here. Wow. Christ Church was only, yeah. So we got a bunch of haters in here, which is a good thing. They don't even understand that they are helping me. But idiots don't understand anything. So they're talking about lies. They're talking about lies, and I'm talking about the rule of law. So which one are you going to go by? So Charles Van Morgan in the morning, and not going to read this. It's true. Just because you say something's true doesn't make it true. It's daylight right now. It's daylight. Now look, right here's a tree. Right here's a tree. And this is, yeah, right here's a tree. And see, if you can see under, it's foggy out today. It's foggy out today. And see if you can see, you can't even see the trees, can you? It's foggy out, so yeah. So they go on emotion, try to get you fired up about something where you leave the facts out. Somebody died, somebody's got to pay. Well, the person that died is the one that paid. So they adjudicate based on emotion, based on their lies. They got a lie started, and they can't stop the train, and I'm stopping it. We can tear the rails up, not literally, but figuratively. So we're talking about the candor rule. So they adjudicated that they weren't giving me my law license to represent you. Now you can get a lawyer that doesn't have candor. It's not about candor. It's about saying hail to the king. It's about kissing the ring. It's not about candor. It's about being 100% on their side, and your client can go to hell for the most part. Now, there's some honest attorneys in Tennessee, but they still have to obey a system that will adjudicate to take their law license away if they stand up and speak the truth. So they can't take my law license away. They've already done that. So I can speak the truth against them and tell you how they violated the law. So they adjudicated in their little rogue administrative hearing that I've got the hearing on YouTube. You can listen to it. Now I'm gonna put the other one on there too. They adjudicated the first one. They adjudicated that I'm not candid. Candid does not mean that you don't tell the truth. Lack of candor means that you don't tell the whole truth. It means, according to the law, I mean, they're a law board, they should go by the law. They shouldn't just point at somebody and say, hey, you're not candid, which is what they do. We don't want him, so we'll just adjudicate they're not candid and not nail it down. In a courtroom, you have to nail stuff down. It's not like politics where you can say anything you want to say, just throw stuff out there, like these people on this page, just throw anything out there and hope it sticks, and use emotion to cover up the facts. That's what a courtroom does, because, you know, they used to have witch hunts where they just go out and grab a witch and hang them. Well, a courtroom is where you can go in and talk about things legally and slow it down in a systematic, factual manner and use the law. And if the witch wasn't guilty, you don't hang them. But they don't want you to do that. They want to go out in all this emotion and hang the witches, you know. And that's what they want to do. But if we have a legal court system, if we have the rule of law, which we don't in Tennessee now, we don't have the rule of law in Tennessee. We got witch hunts. We got evil, wicked people in power that have infiltrated our legal system, including people from foreign countries, and illegal aliens that have infiltrated our Department of Safety, that adjudicate based on keeping themselves in power and not based on adjudicating the rule of law. It has nothing to do with the rule of law. Has everything to do with who's in power and what they want and what they don't want, and they ignore the law when it doesn't suit them. And if it suits them, sure, they'll use it then. But I'm just talking about how they ignored the rule of law in my case. The rule of candor. Oleg versus Department of Federal Veterans Affairs 2016. You're going to look this up. I'm not making it up. So lack of candor means that you leave stuff out when you're telling something that is significant, that is important, that can change the outcome of a litigation, and you do it with intent to deceive. They have to prove intent to deceive. So anybody can tell a story and tell the whole story and leave some minor detail out. Like for instance, you leave out the color of the car in a car wreck. Well, that's something insignificant. That doesn't matter. And if you left it out and you didn't put it in the same place that they wanted to, but you still told them, that's not intent to deceive. That's not proving intent to deceive. In order to adjudicate legally, from a legal standard, we're talking about a legal law board, right? It's not a legal law board. It's a crooked, corrupt law board with Lisa Perlin. It's a criminal law board that violates your constitutional right by keeping attorneys out that would defend you and only allowing ones in that will back up their lies, because they lie and they're a bunch of criminal liars. So that's the truth. You want to hear that anywhere else? Charles Van Morgan in the morning. So they said I lack candor. They not only lack candor, and I don't like candor, I'm very honest. I was honest with them. I rose my hand, told the truth. Oh, shit. Sorry. Damn. So. Here we are. It's danger of walking in the morning. So we'll get up. If I fall down, I'll get right back up. So here we go. I stepped off the sidewalk. So here we go. If I fall down, I'll get right back up. So I'm not hurt. So we'll go on with the program. So make sure I don't fall down again. So in order to prove lack of candor, they got to prove legally, and this is a law board, lawyers adjudicating whether or not I'm not candid. They know the law. They know. They don't care about the law. It means nothing to them. The law means nothing to Lisa Perlin. So let's make sure I got this. Okay. So like, share, comment, contribute. The law means nothing to Lisa Perlin. It means nothing to her. She's a harasser, an intimidator, and a liar. Lied in their legal ruling. They even said when I challenged them, they challenged me about calling Judge McMillan. They challenged me about making a complaint about a judge through their procedure. They challenged me about that. They said, how did I know that he ruled against people for 2 days? And how did I know that he didn't give me due process? And how did I know that he put somebody in jail unlawfully? And they expected me to kiss the ring and say, well, I shouldn't have made that complaint through the legal proceeding. Through your procedure, I shouldn't have made that complaint. When I made the complaint, about a judge, they didn't say that the complaint was unwarranted. The complaint, and you'll get a complaint that says it's to try to establish a legitimacy. If you make a legitimate complaint against a judge violates the Constitution, violates somebody's First Amendment right, violates the due process, doesn't let them speak, puts somebody in jail based on a witness being tampered with. If you complain through their procedure, they got a complaint form, you fill it out, sign your name to it under penalty of perjury and send it in. They will send you back a letter and they will document your name about who complained. And that's what it's about, documenting your name. Got your name so they know that you're a person that is going against the system legitimately, even through their procedure. So, and I'm telling you, this is just what they did to me. So I complained through their procedure, which we got to go through their procedure because we're showing you how their procedures are set up to blackball you, to protect them, and to further facilitate criminal activity. So I made a complaint through their procedure within my right, signed my name to it under penalty of perjury. And when I'm and they sent me back a letter, and they'll send you back a letter that says, thank you for your complaint. we didn't find any evidence of what you said. That's a form letter they'll send you, and it's got all the members of the Tennessee Board of Judicial Conduct on that list saying thank you for your complaint, and we didn't find any evidence. And there is evidence. In the case where I complained on the judge, there's video evidence. They record the court system. It showed in the case where the judge asked the witness 3 times the same question because the witness didn't say what the judge wanted to, Judge McMillan, so that he could put somebody in jail. So a deputy sheriff, Knox County Sheriff's deputy, came over, and it's on tape, there was evidence, came over and told the witness what to say while the witness was under oath. That's witness tampering. Perpetrated, set up by a judge. That's violating somebody's due process rights. Somebody went to jail over that. So I complained about that. I don't think people ought to go to jail through Knox County Sheriff's deputies telling witnesses what to say under oath in a Knox County courtroom. That went on under my eyes. That went on under a licensed attorney's eyes. And we talked about it after the case. It's unbelievable what they did in a due process hearing in the state of Tennessee where they put somebody in jail. And they do it all across the state of Tennessee. Now the attorney, licensed attorney, didn't say anything about it because if he does, they will take his law license. If he complained even about a legitimate, clear violation of the Constitution, where somebody actually went to jail for violation of the Constitution, and the court system violated the Constitution, putting somebody in jail in open court in front of everybody. It was very alarming to me. You get drug into court and you try to defend yourself, and the government, sheriff's deputies and the judge, the government lies on you just like a Russian court to incarcerate you, and that's exactly what they did. I complained about it, spelled out the facts. It was in the record with video evidence. There was evidence of what I said, and they just send you back a letter that says there's no evidence, and thank you for the complaint. It's just a form letter. Every time they'll do that, and unless they're trying to get rid of the judge. If the government wants to get rid of the judge, they'll accept complaints and try to find something that sticks. It's not about the laws. It has nothing to do with the rule of law. I know the rule of law. I've got a doctorate of jurisprudence. It doesn't have anything to do with the law. The Tennessee court system is not set up to enforce the rule of law. They're set up to enforce the rule of the power elite and get to where they're going. They ignore the rule of law when it doesn't suit them, and ignore you when you make a valid complaint that they're not obeying the law. So an attorney, a licensed attorney, seen it too. And when they were denying me my law license, they said he didn't make a complaint. He said that that he didn't have a complaint, that there wasn't nothing done wrong. That's not what he said. He said that he didn't make the complaint. Of course he didn't make the complaint, because if he had made a complaint, even a legitimate complaint against a sitting judge, they would have took his law license away from him. A lawyer in the state of Tennessee cannot make a legitimate complaint against the law, against a sitting judge, even if they're violating people's rights, because if they do, they will sanction the lawyer and pull their law license. So of course he didn't make the complaint. Of course he didn't. And they even lied in their ruling against me, saying that he said that he didn't have a complaint. That's not what he said. He said specifically he didn't make the complaint. Obviously, he didn't make the complaint. If he made a complaint against a sitting judge, they pull his law license. So if you're in a courtroom, and people need to know this, if you're in a courtroom with your attorney and the judge violates your constitutional rights, your right to due process, which is notice and a fair, unbiased hearing, there's a lot more to it than that, but basically it's notice. You have to have notice of the hearing. They jerk you into court. They jerk you into court based on some distant relative for domestic violence, and they can do that. And they did it to me because I was campaigning. And they drag you into court, and then you're on the witness stand defending yourself that you didn't do what they said you did. And then they don't let you finish your speech. They don't give you due process is the right to be heard, but they don't let you they don't let you speak. That's violation of due process. They throw other people in jail based on witness tampering. And even the initial complaint to get you in the courtroom is flawed, is based on lies of the complainant who's in the Republican Party. Then you have a judge, right, you have an attorney right beside you. You think, well, the attorney will object, and the judge is doing wrong. And they even threaten to put your witnesses in jail. The people that are testifying in your favor, the judge says that they're going to put them in jail. a threat. Don't testify in favor of this person. We're out to get this person. That's what this is about. It's not about a fair and biased hearing. We're going to get this person. If you're going to try to stop us, you shut up or we'll put you in jail. Now, that's exactly what they did in the Tennessee courtroom. That goes on every day. So if you think that you're exempt from this, you're not. They can drag you into court and lie on you, witness tampering, you'll go to jail, which is what happened. I complained about it, just like I'm complaining about judicial misconduct today. Out here on the street arguing using my legal education to protect Tennesseans just like I did in a courtroom. So let's see make sure we got the volume on. Thank y'all very much for joining. So they said that I wasn't, that thank you for the complaint. And then they got your name, that you complained. And then they got your name and they don't even investigate the complaint. They use it to mark you, to brand you, where anything you say, and they're going to try to destroy you. So make a complaint at your own risk. Now, I did it knowing, but I don't care, because I'm going to do what's right, and I'm not going along with the program. That is unruly to them. They consider that unruly to stand up on the Constitution. They literally do. So when I say being unruly, I mean stand on your constitutional rights. Stand on your First Amendment rights. That's unruly for you to stand on a public sidewalk and specifically say how the government is dirty. They consider that unruly. That's all right in the Constitution. If they don't like it, they can lump it. They've got a forum to put their side out, and they put their lies out every day, and citizens put the truth out every day. And that's what this movement is about, putting the truth out. So I made that complaint. They lied about what my lawyer said. And if you got a lawyer and the judge violates your constitutional rights, 9 times out of 10, unless it's a judge they're wanting to get rid of, your lawyer's not going to do a damn thing about it. So you may be better off representing yourself in some cases. I'm not telling you to do that, but I would urge you to seriously consider not using attorneys to research the law and argue for yourself instead of using their liars. So I mean, you know, people say, and attorneys say that people that represent themselves have a fool for a client, and that's what attorneys say. You know, I say my personal opinion. It's my opinion. People that hire lawyers have a fool for a lawyer, and they're a fool. People that hire lawyers are fools, I think, for the most part. Now, not all the time, but I'm just saying you can be a fool if you hire a lawyer. They say you'll lose every time because you're a fool for a client. The 2 men that killed 2 deputy sheriffs in Roane County, one represented himself in Roane County, and he got out of a double homicide. He fired his attorney and talked to the jury himself and got out of a double homicide. So not necessarily you have a fool for a client. You might be a fool if you hire an attorney. That's what attorneys say. That's what the crooked judicial system says, because he is a member of the bar. He's the officer of the court, and if the court wants him to lie to keep his job, then he damn sure will, I guarantee you. So you might consider representing yourself in a Tennessee courtroom. Now, you got a biased judge anyway, but at least you can stand there and argue and try to get it on the record. And I would advise to try to get a recording in the courtroom outside of what the courts do. You have to ask the judge, and if they don't get that on the record, because they'll lie about stuff. The Tennessee courtroom is corrupt as hell. It's designed to put you in jail and take your money. It's a money-grabbing machine. Tennessee judiciary is a money-grabbing machine. It's a system to legitimize evil. That's what they do. That's what Tennessee judges do. Dressed up in robes that are criminals. That ought to be their jail clothes. We need to put a lot of them behind bars in jail. So they question my lack of candor, and they question me about making a legitimate complaint. They don't even want you complaining. See, that is what they're trying to sanction. Standing up against them, even through legitimate channels. That's not allowed. You can't do that. Really? That's what kind of judiciary you want? That's not above reproach, that you can't even reproach them. You can't say anything illegal they done. You keep your damn mouth shut. or we won't give you your law license. So they challenged me about complaining legitimately through their procedure on the judge. So I answered them. And then Mr. Long, Attorney Long, who's friends with McMillan, I believe, because all the other attorneys are not in Knoxville. He's the only attorney in Knoxville. He's the only attorney that backed up his buddy McMillan. Why didn't other attorneys all across the state back up Attorney McMillan? Because they didn't have to work with him, and they didn't have any stake in that. And he backed him up because he wants to get in good with McMillan. Not about the rule of law. What McMillan did was criminal and dirty, and he incarcerated somebody violating the Fifth Amendment. What soldiers fight and die for, he just stomped all over the blood of soldiers and committed a serious atrocity in the Knox County Court. It goes on every day in courts all across the state of Tennessee under this judiciary. They don't want me saying that. I'm proving that they do. Now, in my hearing before the Board of Law Examiners, they questioned me about making a legitimate complaint through their procedure. And they questioned me about the complaint. That's not true what you said, because your lawyer didn't say that. Of course he didn't. And what you said, my lawyer said, he didn't even say that. So you're not even being honest. And continue to question me and try to hammer me, intimidate me about that. You know, if you want your law license, you're gonna ignore judicial misconduct. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm gonna be honest. You can take your damn crooked courts of corruption and go straight to hell with them. Because I'm not going to allow people to go to jail unlawfully against the Constitution when the judge is obviously blatantly, with forethought and malice and arrogance, violating the law, violating the Constitution. Soldiers didn't give their blood for people to stand by and listen to that crap from a dirty Tennessee judge. And we shouldn't listen to it. They don't want me saying that. I just said it, didn't I? I double dog dare them to do something about it. I'm not a coward, they are. They think they're coming after me. I'm coming after them. I'm coming after them with truth, not with violence. They're coming after me with violence. They'd like to kill me for telling the truth about them. If they're not dirtbags, if they didn't do what they did, why don't they tell the truth about it? Instead of ignoring the physical facts rule, instead of ignoring the federal law of candor. So they questioned me about that. And you can listen to the hearing. I questioned him. I said, you are doing the same thing. I questioned Mr. Long. I said, you're doing the same thing because he started insulting me. And I don't give a damn who he is. I was out there to get my law license. I wasn't out there to be insulted by them. If they didn't want to give me my law license, didn't want to give me a hearing, well, they just mail me a letter and say, we're not going to give them to you. Instead of dragging me out there, which is what they do, to demean you. They use courts, they use... Okay, thank you. That's a free road. So yeah. You watch your car, lady. Wow. On a public sidewalk and harassed by some idiots. Ma'am, you stop me and harass me. If you got some kind of problem, you call the police. Don't harass me on a public sidewalk. I got a right to do this. See, even people are idiots. I got a right to walk down the sidewalk. You have no right to stop and harass me, stopping in the road, breaking the law. Somebody could have hit her, and then it would have ran into me. So people, you best thing to do, if you're against me, you better leave me the hell alone, because I'm not a toy. I got a right to defend and protect myself, and I damn sure will. You don't see a scratch on me, so let's get on with the dialogue. So, Mr. Long, the crooked attorney over here at that high, big sky-rise building where he lives a life of luxury, little young man fella tried to run me down and thinks I'm going to take it. Well, I took it the first time. I was determined. I don't have a lawyer today. I'm representing myself. You're not going to run over me today. You can deny me my law license, but I'm not going to sit here and take it. You're not going to do it. And I didn't take it, and I'm not taking it now. He's a creep. He's a criminal. Mr. Long is. Mr. Long, sue me. I don't have any money. You won't let me practice law. Because I would have went in a courtroom and argued that you got to have due process. And I don't care what you say, there's not due process in the courtrooms that you represent. Your legal board is not due process. That's what I think, and I'm allowed to say it. Prove me different. The hearings all over the world, that's what you'll go through in a Tennessee courtroom. That's what you'll go if you come through Tennessee on the highways. You'll get arrested wrongfully. You will 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 get charged with crimes that you didn't commit, and you won't get a fair hearing. So we're coming up on our welcome sign, and Mr. Long questioned me about how did I know that Judge McMillan did the atrocity that he did, that he put somebody in jail illegally. How did I know that he always ruled against people? Because for 2 days my attorney sat in these courtrooms, and that's what he did. That's what he did. So I told him, I came out here to get my law license. I didn't come out here to be threatened and intimidated by you, and explain to him why I knew what I knew and the complaint I made and how it was valid. He wanted me to back up on the complaint. I wasn't going to. It was a valid complaint. They didn't even tell me it wasn't a valid complaint. If I broke some law complaining, then why didn't they point that out? So here we are at the welcome sign, and thank y'all for joining me. So if I broke the law in making the complaint, why didn't they charge me under penalty of perjury? So I told him that he was questioning me and continued to badger me about my complaint against Judge McMillan, his friend. So I told him that I made a valid complaint and that it was valid, and I explained in detail, and you can listen to the hearing, why it was what I did and what I saw, which was perfectly legitimate. And I told him that he was doing just like one of the former bar examiners in the other hearing, that he was questioning my integrity, like Barbara Zulica. In the first hearing, she was questioning my integrity, questioning my honesty, while at the very same time, she was committing a crime of dishonesty, a felony of deceit, a criminal offense, and which is very wrong. And so I told him, you are questioning me the same way, antagonizing me, as Barbara Zulica, who pled guilty and was committing a crime of a felony of deceit at the time she was questioning me. And I asked him, which they don't like to be questioned themselves, I said, are you committing a crime of dishonesty? Let me ask you, are you committing a crime of dishonesty? And he admitted, it's very interesting, I'm not the one under oath. Yeah, so he admitted, I can lie. I'm not the one under oath, I'm a judge, I can lie. So he admitted, judges lie. They're not under oath, they can lie. They're protected from any deceit. You can go in a courtroom and they can treat you any damn way they want. Now that is, to give judicial discretion is fine. It works well. It works well. It works very well if you are honest and upright and fair. But if you're like these dirty judges that abuse the system and abuse people, and flat out tell them, I'm not under oath, I don't have to answer that question. I can accuse you of whatever I want to. It doesn't even have to be true. I don't have to have a basis for anything I do. And he admitted, I'm not the one under oath. Well, you should be in jails where you should be, Mr. Long. You're a criminal. You have cut off the opportunity for citizens to have a lawyer that will back up their constitutional rights all across the state, and shown the public that if you stand up for people's constitutional rights, you won't get your law license. If you ignore judicial misconduct, then you'll keep your law license. And that's exactly what their hearing said. We are in power. You do what we say. We don't care about the Constitution. Mr. Long tramples all over the Constitution. How you doing, Mr. Long, you constitutional violator? How does it feel to step on the blood of soldiers and bar people from protecting the Constitution? Well, I'm out here on the street protecting the Constitution. You can lock those courthouse doors and deny a law license because you're illegitimately in power. You can't stop the street. I'm out here on the street. I double dog dare you to come out here and stop me on the street. It won't work out well for you. And, you know, like his buddy, Mr. Ward, tried to chase me down the street. You better hope you don't catch, you know, it might be very dangerous for you to catch what you're trying to catch and to try to hurt what you're trying to hurt, you dirty SOB. So judges are not under oath. He admitted that. They can lie, and they do all the time. They lie. And then they sit in courtrooms while you're in court, and then they publicly humiliate you. Say disgusting, despicable things. And I'm not even going to mention what McMillan, disgusting, despicable individual. And they use the political parties to elect these people into office through lies. Republicans got Mr. McMillan elected. Well, congratulations, Republicans, you dirty, sick people. Some of them, not all of them, but I'm just saying that's the truth. And Republicans, you're voting against your own interest. Democrats, you're voting against your own interest. Look at the truth. So they said, and I sound pretty damn candid, don't I? Sound pretty damn candid, and I'm not saying stuff that's controversial. It's the truth. There's a lot of people that have stood up against the crooked people in government power. I'm not the only one. You better hope we don't go away. We're the thin line between anarchy and your constitutional rights. And I'm standing up for the constitutional rights. I'm talking about the law. They don't want to talk about the law. They're not under oath, right? Well, they should be. They shouldn't be in the positions that they're in. So we're almost to the bridge. We'll lay out the facts. And thank you all for joining me. And we appreciate your time. And we're here to help. I have a doctor of jurisprudence. Passed the bar twice. I got a Master of Arts in Sociology. I know what the hell I'm talking about. Dirty, crooked judiciary and the social movement vote. Voters of truth enraged. And we got a nation of laws. Let's start enforcing them against the lawmakers. So they said that I lacked candor. And it is the reason they denied me my law license. Well, let's see. Under the law, if they're not just saying he lacked candor, we'll deny him, we'll write that down. Or if under the law, if I lack candor, Oleg versus Department of Veterans Affairs is the law on candor. Did I lack candor? No, I didn't lack candor. Criminals said I lacked candor, and that's not a defamation statement. One of them pled guilty to a crime of deceit, an infamous crime that adjudicated that I'm not candid, and I've never been convicted of any crime. It'd be almost funny, except for you, it's trampling over your constitutional rights, so it's kind of serious when people that guard the legal field are committing infamous crimes, just smearing people, saying they're not candid, which is what they did. And that's what kind of law you're getting in the state of Tennessee. So let's get across the road here. So we got a few viewers. And we need a few more. So, been on here for about an hour. Let's see, Anderson Pike in Knox County, investigators discovered that at approximately 3:32 a.m. on November 26th, trooper Morgan was pursuit of and that'd be a lie. Thanks for your comments. You're spreading You're spreading my page. So got a bunch of haters on here. Wow. So they based on the physical facts rule, they adjudicate that I'm not candid. And the public, of course, the newspapers and all that go against me. Of course they do. They rule for the state. So based on the ruling of candor, Oleg versus Department of Veterans Affairs, in order to prove that someone is not candid, you have to prove that they left something out that's material with the intent to deceive. That's federal law. So let's see if the Board of Judicial, the Board of Law Examiners proved that I left something out with the intent to deceive. And if their ruling wasn't a ruling of lies, their judicial ruling, their ruling in the law was lies. It was a blackmail, and also against age discrimination. They gave a younger lawyer that was fired from the Highway Patrol their law license, but refused to give me my law license. So go figure that. So they didn't prove that I wasn't candid. We'll get to the other side of the bridge and lay these facts out for you. And thank you all for all the comments and all even the lies, because you all keep the channel going. And the truth has weight and value. The state and people would like to blackball me, but I'm talking about truth and facts. I'm talking about the rule of law, not the rule of lies. We're talking about facts, the physical facts rule, where they can't say that you're a liar because you've seen moving parts, an automobile wreck wrongly. You know, you can cite newspapers. Newspapers lie. So if you want to believe the news, if you want to believe the courts, let me tell you about the Tennessee court system, how crooked they are. That's what this movement is about. Putting pressure on them. They're not going to ever tell the truth until we put pressure on them. There's an election coming up in 2026. One of the judiciary is running. We'll get his name. We need to vote him out. Show him that we don't like the judiciary in Tennessee. It's not working for us. You violate our constitutional rights, we're going to knock every damn one of you off by voting. Now, they'd like to get me killed by spreading lies about me, putting a hit out on me. Like to get me killed. What I'm doing is brave and honorable. I wasn't running from anybody. And these nameless trolls on here, thank you. I mean, they're faceless trolls. I'm out here in a public forum. I'm not running from anybody, telling the truth. You can, Hitler told lies over and over, kill the Jews, and people fell in line. And I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth for your own safety and protection and well-being. These trolls on here don't have a doctor of jurisprudence. They didn't pass the bar exam twice. They have no clue what they're talking about other than to spread hate and deceit and lies. So if you're on here, opposition means you're stepping on some toes. Justifiably. If I'm not important, why are you running me down? So the Board of Law Examiners said that I wasn't candid. Oleg versus Department of Veterans Affairs says in order to prove that someone's not candid, according to the legal rule of law, you have to prove that they left something out. And not only did they leave something out, it was something pertinent, it was something important. And also that they had the intent to deceive. You have to prove those elements legally, or you can't say that they're not candid. You can't prove that. And our court systems are not based on witch hunts, they're based on proof and evidence. If you think something is true, if you believe it, if you heard it in the news or some trolls telling you, well, that you can believe that if you want to. But in a courtroom, in our courtroom, in our established courtrooms that are supposed to enforce the rule of law, that's not the way they're supposed to be run. They're supposed to be run according to, we're a nation of laws, rules. But are we a nation of laws and rules? We are, but they're not enforced under the Tennessee judiciary right now, and that's why I'm asking you to vote them out. Vote these people out. How you doing? So they allege the Tennessee courts through the Board of Law Examiners, which their direct supervisor of the Tennessee Supreme Dirty Courts, the people that are getting rich off federal student loan money. California, New York, Florida, you ought to be mad at the Tennessee judiciary. They're stealing your money. They're robbing you blind. People say, people in Tennessee talk about Californians coming here and voting. They say, don't bring your California here. California ought to say, quit stealing our money, Tennessee judiciary. Quit allowing your judiciary to steal Californians' money. I mean, let's just tell the truth about it. Flip the script to the truth. Let's put the true script out there, which is what I'm trying to tell you. It's not what the judiciary says. They say I'm not candid. I'm pretty damn candid with facts. The Tennessee judiciary doesn't like facts. They get in their way. So they make up new facts. They put new ones in there that didn't exist. That when you slow the camera down and screenshot it, the facts they said is not there. If you listen to the narrative of what was actually said at the scene, it's not the same thing that they tell you was said. What a bunch of dirty liars. They say I'm not candid. I'm very damn candid. So they allege falsely that I didn't tell them about my wrongful termination from the Tennessee Department of Safety, which is not true. I did tell them about my wrongful termination from the Tennessee Department of Safety. They put me under oath. They asked me about that. And I'm going to record the hearing, the first hearing, where I tried to get my law license and let you hear that. And what our dirty Tennessee judiciary is doing. So when I explained it to them, I was under oath. And I know I was there. I know what happened. I know what the courts say. The courts lied about stuff. They lied. The judge lied in their rulings, and higher judges than them backed up lies. They even threw out expert testimony to cover up for their lies and deceit. That's what Tennessee courts do. Tennessee courts are in the business of backing up the governor, backing up the governor's lies, backing up the governor's billions. They're not in the business of adjudicating the Constitution and your rights. If you don't believe that, then you're in some serious trouble. Listen to me and I'll tell you the facts. They wanted you to go on a motion. I'm just telling you the facts. The judicial system in Tennessee is set up to back up the power elite and step on your constitutional rights, put you in jail, and then they'll try to legitimize it. Of course, they'll come up with some lie that doesn't even make sense if you go through the narrative. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make logical sense. They say I passed up a wreck. Why would I pass up a wreck? Why would a trooper pass up a wreck? Because he didn't see it, obvious. Because it was in the dark and he didn't see it. But see, they take you through all these steps. I mean, just like I told the Board of Law Examiners, why did I pass up a wreck? Did I get a cookie for passing it up? I passed it up because it wasn't seeable. It was in the dark. And now they of course they say, and the judge ruled it, so it must be true, right? No, it's not. Judges in Tennessee are dirty liars. What they done to you was crooked as hell. So like, share, comment, and I appreciate all these trolls making adverse comments, because when they do, what happens is that increases my views. so thank you. You know, lies don't bother me because I know the truth, and these people are pretty disgusting backing up the government, backing up people in government power that lie. So social movements are what we're doing, getting out the truth. Thank y'all for joining us. Look at you. So, Charles Van Morgan in the morning, we're going to talk about candor. They adjudicated that I wasn't candid. So let's look at Oleg versus Department of Veterans Affairs. What it says, in order to prove somebody is not candid, you have to prove that they left something out that's pertinent, that's material, with intent to deceive. So they allege that I left out my wrongful termination from the Highway Patrol. And I was under oath, and they asked me about that. And I said that I didn't agree with the court's rule. They wanted me to lie under oath and say that the court was right, that they terminated me rightfully, that the court system got it right. And they didn't. The court system didn't get it right. And I'm not going to lie under oath. I was there. I know what happened. I told the truth. And they got it wrong. And I'm under oath. I have to tell the truth. But they don't want you to tell the truth under oath. They don't want you to tell the truth. They want you to tell what they want to hear in order to keep them in power, in order to give them legitimacy. They don't want to hear that the system is wrong. And it is wrong, very wrong. But I told the truth under oath. So I got sanctioned for telling the truth. So they allege that I didn't tell my law school of my wrongful termination from the Highway Patrol, and that I didn't keep them updated when the case was concluded. And the fact is, here's the facts. The fact is, when I was left Lincoln Memorial University School of Law because they lowered my grades, trying to get rid of me because Randy Nichols in this area because of politics. They said I couldn't pass in law school. That's what LMU, this school down here, Lincoln Memorial University Duncan School of Law. When that wreck happened, that the man killed himself, they said they couldn't get rid of me because I wouldn't resign. I wanted to finish law school. I was in law school when that wreck happened. I was trying to get out of THPP. So they said that they lowered my grades. I complained about it. I filled out a complaint and said, my grades are still the same. Y'all are lowering my grades intentionally for political reasons, not based on what I'm doing in the test. They had a meeting with me and they told me you can't pass in law school. You're not smart enough. You're not making a good grades enough. You can't make it, trying to convince me of that. Well, the fact is that I did make it in law school, a 3.24 grade point average, top in my class, passed the bar exam twice, so they were lying. The fact is I did graduate from law school. I did. Another one, not that one, because I resigned from that law school because of how dirty they were doing me. The more I complained, the worse it got. The more I told them the truth, the more they do you dirty. It's not nothing to do with the truth. If you think the judicial system and the law schools and all this has to do with the truth and the Constitution, it has nothing to do with that. It's all about blackballing and the dirtiest scumbags you can ever think of. The worst things you've heard about attorneys, it's mostly true. Not all of them, but majority of them. So I reapplied to Nashville School of Law under a different dean then, not under Dope Cope, the sick man that he is. So I reapplied to Nashville School of Law. I put on my application that I was wrongly terminated from the Highway Patrol, that the case was pending, that I was appealing the decision through the administrative procedure. I told them that. I didn't think they would accept me. But under Dean Townsend, they did accept me, and they even gave me credit for stuff I did for the classes that I did at Duncan School of Law, which I paid thousands of dollars for that crappy school, in my opinion. Dirty school. I wouldn't go there. And they told me when I had to get information from them that they were going to mail a letter to the bar examiners and they'd send me a copy. They never sent me a copy. They lied to me because they're defaming me. Even though their agreement when I left their law school was that they would not put any derogatory information about me, that I resigned in good standing is what they said. But then they lied. They don't put me in good standing. They don't keep their agreements, which that's the reason why I resigned, or I would have kept going, but they allowed me to resign in good standing. So I applied, and then they lied about that. So Duncan Memorial School of Law don't keep their agreements. If they did, where's the letter that they sent the Board of Law Examiners? Is it that I resigned in good standing? I doubt that. So they forced me to resign, lowering my grades wrongfully, saying I couldn't graduate from law school. The facts are, in spite of all the trolls, uneducated idiot trolls that are on here, faceless, that are helping me, thank you, I did graduate from law school. I did pass the bar exam. I've tried 2 times to get my law license, following the rules. I'm never going to get them. You're never going to succeed in their courtrooms either. They're not going to let you. They're not using the law. So I put on my application, I was wrongfully terminated from the Highway Patrol. Today, I was wrongfully terminated from the Highway Patrol. That's the truth. The court got it wrong. They even ignored expert witness testimony. They said I seen something that was unseeable. They lied about stuff. The Tennessee judiciary got stuff wrong. That's not nothing new. The judiciary has put people on death row that were later exonerated. And the problem is they won't straighten out their own mistakes. So the case wasn't over. A final ruling, a wrong ruling I might add, was not over until I'd already graduated and passed the bar exam. Until I'd already graduated, I hadn't passed the bar exam at that time yet. I'd taken it. But the case was already over. It got over in March. It got over in 2017. I graduated from law school in 2016. So the case wasn't over. And there was no rule that I had to update them after every hearing. They accepted me in law school. If I told them that the court ruled adjudicated against me, they wouldn't have got rid of me in law school. They didn't. Leon Marshall, they adjudicated against him. And my case wasn't over until I was out of law school. So how was I supposed to report to them something that I didn't know? You know, that is ludicrous. So there was no intent to deceive them, because it was in the legal papers in my application to Nashville School of Law that I was wrongfully terminated, and I didn't think they'd accept me. Michelle encouraged me to apply and try, and I did, and I was happy they accepted me and went. And I had nothing to report. They didn't tell me I had to, that I had to report every update, every adverse ruling. The case wasn't over until I was out of law school. So, and even if I was supposed to, and there was no order for me to do that, they're lying. And even if there was no intent on my part to deceive. They got to prove intent to deceive under federal law, and the state courts unjustifiably rule the federal courts, and the federal courts let them do that. Federal courts are supposed to be supreme. They have supreme jurisdiction. Federal law rules. Some of our legislators don't know that. They think that they don't have to abide by federal law. Well, you know, the Civil War was fought over that. The Union won. You do have to follow federal law. They don't adjudicate in every case, but what laws the federal laws have, the states have to follow them. You can't disregard federal courts and federal laws. They're supreme. The most powerful courts in the United States of America are federal courts. State laws aren't the supreme adjudicator. Federal courts are. If they're of limited jurisdiction and they don't adjudicate everything, they adjudicate cases that apply to the Constitution. They adjudicate cases that apply to Constitution and federal rights, like if they violate your First Amendment rights, the state does, and they adjudicate things that are diversity of jurisdiction, people between different states, complete diversity on both sides of the case, and cases involving over $75,000, but they don't adjudicate. They don't adjudicate every case, like they don't adjudicate domestic cases, and they don't adjudicate family cases, but the cases that the federal courts have jurisdiction over, then the states have to obey by federal courts. The states have to obey by federal court rules. So the federal courts are supreme adjudicators. You can't defy federal courts or federal laws. So the state courts decide who represents you in federal courts. Federal courts don't get to decide in Tennessee. They don't decide who represents you in a federal courtroom. So unless you're approved by Lisa Perlin, which is against the supremacy clause of the United States Constitution, overview here, and unless you are approved by Lisa Perlin, you can't represent somebody in a supreme federal court. So are the federal courts supreme? No, they're not. At least the federal judges go along with Lisa Perlin deciding who represents you in their courtrooms. Because I can't even practice in a federal court because the state hasn't approved me. Because the state of Tennessee hasn't approved me, I can't even practice law in federal courts. So the federal courts are submitting themselves to the dirty Tennessee Board of Law Examiners. That doesn't sound very constitutional, does it? And so the state courts, the state line judiciary has infected our federal court system. That's just the truth. A federal judge dismissed my federal case saying he didn't have jurisdiction. He don't have jurisdiction. He don't have jurisdiction to decide what attorneys represent you in his court. He should have. He doesn't want jurisdiction. It's called politics has infected the Tennessee judiciary. And if he doesn't have jurisdiction about who decides to represent him in a federal court, if he's going to let Lisa Perlin decide who represents you in his courtroom, which is what he does, a state judge, he's going to let a state administrative judge system, a state judge, the federal court is going to let a state judge, a state administrator, decide who represents you in his Supreme Court, the courts, federal courts are supreme. Then at the least, he should make Lisa Perlin abide by federal law and not her blackballing. Federal law says that to say someone's not candid, in order for her to adjudicate I'm not candid, she has to prove that I left something out that was material with intent to deceive. That's federal law. Oleg versus Department of Veterans Affairs. She didn't prove that. So not only do these federal courts say, Lisa Perlin gets to decide who represents us in front of us, she doesn't even have to obey our laws. So that's kind of a mixed up judiciary system, facilitated by the dirty Tennessee judiciary. That's the way that doesn't work for you, works well for Lisa Perlin, even controls your federal civil rights. Wow, what a dirtbag system it is. And you want me to stand here and tell you that it's a just system? It's not a just system. It's a crooked system full of criminals, full of people that will deny your rights, full of liars like some of these trolls on here that don't go by the facts. So I'm just telling you the truth. So thank y'all for joining me, even the trolls. So let's look at Unruly groups. William Ganson in 1975 did a study, and this is how we're going to perpetrate stopping these dirty people. I've told you the rule of law. There's no rule of law. That's their system. Their system doesn't follow the rules. So how are we going to stop them? How are we going to stop them? We have to try to go through the rule of law. I've tried twice. We have to go through their system. And the reason why you go through their systems, if you can afford to have the money, you don't have to, is because look at how their system is run. It's crooked as hell. There's a group in Nashville that I've reached out to that is going into courtrooms and watching these judges. And I hope that they respond back to me, because we need people to go in courtrooms and watch these judges and document what they do. If you have information about judges, go down to my YouTube page, and I've got an anonymous survey. You can put your name and phone number on there if you want to, but you can do it anonymously and report judicial misconduct. how they violate your rights. Report people in power in the government misconduct, and I will try to look into it. So the way that we can fight this is to go through their system. That's one way. And then when you're going through their system, you're not going to get due process of law. Document how they violate the law, which is, I just told you 2 ways they violated my constitutional rights, and I've told you how they violate the supremacy clause because Lisa Perlin controls the federal courts. So they violated the rule of candor, federal law. They didn't prove that. They just blackballed me. They got a rule of blackball. It's not a rule of lack of candor. The case wasn't over until I was out of law school. They don't tell you that in their little rigged ruling. They don't tell you that a lady that adjudicated I'm not candid was committing a criminal offense, an infamous offense of dishonesty, when I've never been convicted of any crime. Never been convicted of any crime. Not going to be convicted of a crime unless they rig it, because I'm not committing any crime. So, and they violate the physical facts rule. They don't go by the laws. They don't go by case law. You can take all the legal knowledge that you learn in law school and go down here and throw all the books in the river, let them float off, because the Tennessee courtroom is going to get to where they want to go. If the law's in their favor, they'll cite the law. If it's not in their favor, they'll ignore it and blackball you and lie. These courts are set up not to adjudicate the truth. They're set up to keep people in power and lie, and crush the person that's pointing out the truth and put us in jail and all kinds of stuff. So be careful. The other thing is a William Gamson study, and it came out in 1975 about social movements. He did a study, and groups that were unruly, not necessarily criminal, that did criminal things, that were unruly, that were boisterous, and that exercised their rights, and that were forceful in getting their views across, that were loud and very active and unruly against the government. Actually, they were ruly against the government's unruliness, that were confrontational, got concessions more than groups that were recipients and didn't do anything about it. So what I'm telling you is unruliness benefits. So let's be unruly, or the way I put it is ruly against their unruliness, against people in government power. So William Gamson, the success of the unruly. 66% of unruly groups win concessions. So 66% get some of what they want. 71% win acceptance. So being unruly, being loud and boisterous, pays dividends. And I've been arrested. I got arrested. Groups using no pressure, 0%. So as you can see, loud and boisterous wins overtaking it. So we're not going to get anywhere using no pressure. Not going to get anywhere. Unruly means persistent, loud, confrontational, not violent. Not violent. That's why I'm out here on the bridge, speaking the truth to power. So let's be loud and boisterous, forceful. Don't take their crap. Don't put up with it. When they violate the law, speak up. Point it out. I pointed out 3 areas, just simple today. There's more. They lie. There's so much lies and corruption, it's hard to get to it. The problem is it violates your constitutional rights. It puts you in jail. So let's be loud and boisterous. Now, that's not for everybody, I know. But online presence and calling your friends and neighbors, friends calling friends, beats these bought elections. This movement is vote. Voters of truth enraged. So we need to vote for truth. We need to vote for the Constitution. And we need to send a message to the judiciary when these elections come up. We need to vote these people out to show them that, hey, we're paying attention. We need to knock them out of office by the voting booth to show them that you're not following the Constitution. You're not fooling us. We know you're not fooling us. We can tell. There's that Charles Van Morgan guy out on the bridge that's telling us what you're doing. And it ain't right. It's very dirty. And you show up at the polls, and when one of these judges is up for election, there's one up in 2026, vote no for retention. Vote them out. Show them that, hey, this is going to affect you. We're not going to do stuff illegal or criminal, but we're going to show up at the polls and vote you out of office. In 2030, there's a retention election for the dirty Tennessee Supreme Court that's letting foreign lawyers practice law in the state of Tennessee without enough education. Denying people without a birth certificate to represent their country. Vote them out of office in 2030. Show them that there's a cost to be paid for your dirty lies. Force them to be honest, because they're not going to be honest on their own. Look at the facts. The facts are groups using no pressure, zero success. So if we don't do something, we're not going to be successful. So unruly means persistent. Now I've been at this since 2019, filing lawsuits and protesting through court, and running for public office, contacting neighbors. I've knocked on about 40,000 doors over the past 5 years. I may run for public office again, being loud, confrontational, not violent. So lies. Government power is built on lies. They must protect. Truth is the first casualty. Institutions lie to protect themselves. Unified, exposing lies on a smaller scale, Tennessee instead of DC. So their whole system is built on lies. So I already explained to you the physical facts rule. The law they broke to burn my truth. Testimony may only be thrown out if physically impossible. TLB, Tennessee judges ignored this. They rejected you not because of evidence, but because the truth was inconvenient. So they violated the physical facts rule. They said that I lack candor. That they said that I'm not credible to testify ever in a court of law. Through multiple courts decided that based on 2 seconds in the middle of the night, which I was completely justified in what I did. But the physical facts rule talk about when they're specifically for a car wreck and instances like that, when things are moving and fluid, just because a witness sees things or doesn't see things, you can't adjudicate that they're not credible to ever testify in a court because of the physical facts rule. They violated the physical facts rule and held me accountable to an impossible standard and set blackballed me. It's not about me being not credible. If it's about me not being credible, why did they subpoena me to testify in another court in another county? And they dismissed hundreds of cases based on violating the physical facts rule. I'm very candid and I'm very credible. The court system, the Tennessee court system is not candid and credible. They're not. That's the truth. I don't hate to tell you. I tell you with glee. It needs to be said. For your safety and protection and well-being, they blackballed me, violating the physical facts rule. So they said because I didn't see everything in the middle of the night that they can see on the camera that I'm not credible to ever testify in a court of law, took my job away and never let me be an attorney because of 2 seconds, because I didn't see what's on the camera. Wow, now that's what they did. That's not according to law. The Tennessee courts don't follow the law. They do not follow the law. Look at the physical facts rule. They can't say I'm not credible to ever testify in a courtroom ever in my life. That's what they did over 2 seconds, because they seen something on a video that I didn't see at the time. That's unjust. That's crooked as hell. Look it up, physical facts rule. And that's so crooked. A case that was decided in 1992. They said that I lack candor. Candor standard. The candor standard, then intent they never proved. Lack of candor requires intent to deceive. I didn't deceive anybody. I put on my application, I put it on there that I was terminated from the Highway Patrol. The case wasn't over until I was out of the THP. Until I was out of law school. So how was I supposed to report it to law school when I was already out, I already graduated, I already had a degree? So they didn't prove lack of candor. And I was candid. I explained to them in the hearing, and I'm gonna put a recording probably on the day of the hearing, the first hearing. I explained to them. They said that I wasn't credible. I explained to them that I lied, that I'm a liar, that they can't have me as a lawyer because I'm a liar. Because the court adjudicated that I'm not a credible person. But I explained to them in that pursuit situation, in that pursuit, if somebody's lying, then just by logic, then you can prove that, hey, they said this right here, this fact, and you go back and look at a fact, and it's different than what they said. So they're lying, and they know that. And that's what I can prove about the courts. I can prove that about them, because they said a light was on the car, and you can show that, you can see it's not on. But they can't prove that anything I said could not have happened that way, because I'm telling the truth. That's why when you lie, what a tangled web we weave when at first we attempt to deceive. Because if you lie, there are things that can disprove it. And that's why investigators look into stuff, and if somebody lies about stuff, they can find cracks in their statement. Well, we can find cracks in what the Tennessee judiciary did to me. A lot of cracks. But if you listen to what I said, the testifying under oath, swearing to tell the truth, there's nothing that they can say in there, well, he said this, but this is what he knew, and this is what happened. It's direct contradictory to what he said. There's nothing in there that can prove that, because I know I'm telling the truth. I'm very credible. They lied. They're not credible. And I testified that under oath. But they don't care. It's not about the truth. They put out their ruling to deny me my law license on Valentine's Day. Wow, isn't that amazing? They put out the ruling to take my job away from me from the Tennessee Highway Patrol on St. Patrick's Day in violation of the law, in violation of past 90 days. The judge has 90 days from the time of the hearing. They put it out over 120 days after the hearing on St. Patrick's Day, sending a message, hey, we own the law, we own the truth. No, you don't. No, you don't. So you disclose everything. You cannot hide something that was not finalized. Tennessee fabricated intent. You were candid, they weren't. The Me Too movement, Marty Nix. Power fails when enough people seek truth. So Marty Nix reported in THP, we're talking about social movement. Marty Nix reported in THP sexual harassment. Where's the Me Too movement? Where's the Me Too movement? Are they controlled by the government? The Me Too movement out there, all you all that are against sexual harassment and women being mistreated. Marty Nix, a trooper with THP, reported sexual harassment by a THP supervisor. The Tennessee courts under Bredesen, who got rid of all sexual harassment complaints, shredded them, made through the government, shredded them where people couldn't ask for them through public information requests. Marty Nix complained about a supervisor, which he had to, for sexual harassment. And they fired him. Where's the Me Too movement? Me Too movement, you failed. Put out the word. Marty Nix complained about sexual harassment of the secretary of THP. And the captain and his entourage and the governor covered it up. So, some social movements aren't as powerful as they think they are. Systems produce abusers. System protects abusers. They protect them. Movements expose them. Social movement tactics. How small movements beat big systems. That is the new section, and there are real tactics used by civil rights, labor, and corruption in modern digital movements. So tactics disruptive to the narrative. Make the public question the government story. How do you do it? Daily live streams, that's what we've been doing. Showing documents, that's what we've been doing. Exposing contradictions. Repeating key phrases. Physical facts full. Lack of candor requires intent. So, if the public doubts the official narrative, the government loses its power. And the government lies. The government lies. So, tactics document everything. Go. Create a paper trail they can't erase. You already do this. I do. TBL transcripts. I'm going to put out one today. Traffic accident evidence. Administrative law contradictions. Bribery-like political patterns. Street signs they paid for versus your campaign. Corruption hates documentation. So they don't like my documentation, do they? Tactic symbolization. This is visibility, symbolism, graphic choke point. People see you daily, becomes ritual plus brand, trusted president. So we're showing you what we're doing. Movements do this intentionally. Selma Bridge, the lunch counters, the courthouse steps. You're doing it naturally. Tactics, personal story and evidence. People don't trust institutions, they trust humans. Your story is greatest weapon. Former trooper, master's degree. So we're just showing you. JD degree, pass bar, wrongfully accused, lied on by the state, proving corruption firsthand. Your life is the case. That's right. Living proof. Tactical moral outrage. This is Gamps and MLK and Kelly combined. Let's be unruly. So you're build outrage by showing lies, contradictions, abuse, double standard, rigged system, denial of due processes, judges who ignore the evidence. Moral outrage fuels the movement. So just going through the list here. Tactical repetitive messaging. Movements train audience with repetition. Say these phrases daily. Physical facts rule. They adjudicated I'm not candid because of a wreck. Lack of candor requires intent. I didn't have any intent to deceive anybody. They never proved intent. TBLE lied. Tennessee Board of Law Examiners lied. Judges lied. The truth is the first casualty. So, they fear exposure. I don't fear exposure, not me. Reputation equals impact. Keep saying, calling out the truth. Tactic, calling out power directly. Not with hate, with facts. When you calmly expose lies, corruption freaks out. Tactics include your audience power to you, the people. So y'all have power too. People join movements when they feel part of something. Charles Van Morgan hashtag. Power to you, the people. Your approach, you are the judge, here are the facts. That's textbook movement building. Your story revisited the unruly truth teller. Tie everything together. Closing line. I'm one man on a bridge with a phone, and I have shown more than the entire Tennessee legal system, more truth than the entire Tennessee legal system. They can't beat truth, they can't beat evidence, and they sure can't beat persistence. So, they can't beat truth, they can't beat evidence, and they sure can't beat persistence. We've been at this since 2019. So thank y'all for joining us today. We're not done yet. We're going to talk about a few more things. What we can do is register, persuade, volunteer, vote. Even non-voters and non-eligible allies show up, speak up, make the difference. We are lawful. We fight corruption using the law, the vote, and the public pressure. So impact. Baseline, no flips needed. We need 1,127,528 votes. 27% of the outreach pool. With modest flips, 5%, lead plus 5% others needed. We need 185,000 votes, 22.9% outreach pool. Bottom line, small flips of Lee, other voters make a big dent. So we only need 27% of people who didn't vote to flip the election. Everyone has power. Why non-eligible people can help lawfully and effectively. Speak out, attend public meetings, city council, school board meetings, protest and pressure, peaceful, lawful demonstrations and rallies. Persuade. Talk to friends, family, neighbors about registering and voting. Volunteer, canvass, phone bank, text bank, hand out flyers. Logistics. Drive people to polls, help with child care, hand out water at events. Media outreach. Share videos, call in to talk radio, contact local press, post on social media. Watchdog. Observe public meetings. Document misconduct lawfully. Fundraising and these resources. Collect donations, buy material, pay for ad spaces or signs. Takeaway, not eligible to vote, you can still create the momentum that gets people to the polls prepared for, so you can still make a difference. Registered non-voters, 2022, 2,812,252. That's how many people were registered but didn't vote in 2022. 2 million people were registered but didn't vote. That's enough to overturn the election. Eligible and unregistered estimated 1,360,000. I got 1,862 votes. Total outreach 4,174,434. That's how many people can vote. 4 million. That's how many people are out there that can easily flip an election. So bottom line, register and persuade. About 27% of this pool surpass Bill Lee's 2022. So we only need a small percentage of voters to go along with the program, to vote. So we'll talk about some more collective action tomorrow. So thank y'all for joining us. We'll talk about some more collective action probably tomorrow. And thank y'all for joining us. We're going to let y'all see the view. Get off here a little early today. And thank y'all very much for joining. We'll let y'all see the beautiful view. Of the river and the sunrise. And we will head back to the house. Let's see if we got any comments in here that that make any sense. I'm not familiar with speaking justice system in general. I've filed federal court lawsuits for millions. The courts are very dirty with timing and due process. Okay, yeah, that's right, they are. Think about, yeah, okay. So thank y'all for joining. We'll probably be back on here tomorrow. Tennessee plays Florida, go Vols. And here's the beautiful river. Beautiful view. See the traffic lined up. So if you want me to speak at your venue, then let me know. I'll broadcast live on my show, live on Facebook, where we had 1.2 million people in the past about 3 months, over 1.2 million people. If you want me to speak at your venue, email me at charlesvanmorgan@gmail.com, and I'll speak at your venue. And I'll also, if you want me to advertise for your business, then I'll advertise where two people have to funnel across 2 bridges to get across South Knoxville at Moody and Chapman Highway, and they have to come that way before they can cross the Gay Street Bridge. Excuse me, the Gay Street Bridge is closed before they can cross the South Knoxville Bridge, or before they can cross the Henley Street Bridge. There's only 2 bridges in Knoxville, so they have to go across they have to pass Moody at Chapman. So heavy traffic. If you want me to advertise for your business, I will, for a small price. You can email me at charlesvanmorgan@gmail.com. And I'll also speak at your business or church if you want me to speak, charlesvanmorgan@gmail.com. And also available for advertising. Buy my book, The Charles Van Morgan Story, an effort to save lives and correct the record. You can do that. Email me at charlesvanmorgan@gmail.com. So here's the beautiful view. Thank y'all for listening. And as always, God loves you, and I do too.